Hello, welcome to another crafty video. So in today's video I'm actually going to be using some of my marbled backgrounds. I know some of you have been waiting for me to do videos on them. I am going to do some more individual videos just focusing on one background as well, but this video is going to be creating a big batch of like quick and simple thank you cards using lots of the different backgrounds that you might have in your stash, because I need about 30 of them to say thank you to all of the Mountbatten carers and nurses that looked after my nan before she passed away. So I wanted to do these kind of techniques where you do the inlaid die cutting. So I'm going to do it with these gorgeous Festive alphabet dies from scrapbook.com that my lovely friend Arteza sent me. And then I'm also going to use this, what's it called, giant thank you from Fawn as well to do some too. So I've got sort of like mixtures of different thank yous in there. I have started some of them already, just with random backgrounds that I had. If you look here, this is how many that I already have pre-cut into sizes of all of these just random backgrounds of when I've been doing videos playing with different inks, when I've been experimenting with salt and stuff, doing ink sprays, stamping on top. These glittery paints are actually those Arteza Tempera paints that I did a review on ages ago. All sorts of different backgrounds that I have left over from all those kind of things. These are Cosmic Shimmer watercolor inks. This background was from like 6 years ago or something, whenever they launched. There's some jelly printed sort of backgrounds here as well, brayering on some of Dina Wakley's neon paints, playing around with brush stroke marks as well. These were the Tempera paints too. And then there's also you know, lots of like paper pieces where I have been playing around. I think those were the Tempera paints as well. That must just be the stack that I've picked out here. And some cool like distressed sort of jelly printed kind of things as well. So I literally have hundreds of backgrounds already cut up, and I just went through and picked a few of them out. These are from doing the salad spinner technique as well, like heat embossing and stuff. Actually, this was stamping with Nouveau Dream Drops and then ink blending over the top when it was dry. This was using some of Nouveau's textured Craft Perfect handmade papers and printing with spray inks with them. So many different things in here. These are embossed pieces of card that I was using to create textures on the jelly plate, and then I just liked them as well. So many different backgrounds that I've got in here, and I just went through and picked out a bunch of them. I also, when I was cutting all of these down, were these those strips? No, maybe it wasn't those strips. Oh, it's these ones here. I saved like any strips that were left as well that I thought might be good for making cards with too. So at some point down the line, you might see me creating cards with all of these random gorgeously patterned strips that I saved when I was cutting down all of these backgrounds a little while ago as well. But the main point of this video is to just make a load of different thank you cards, and so I've already done a few of them. I've sort of got these versions of them already done, and I'm going to show you how I've created these ones but using some of the water marbled backgrounds that I've done. And then when we finish those ones, we're going to move on to what I'm going to do with all of the pieces that have come out of them. So actually that one's not an actual example because I cut that out of a different piece of cardstock, but this one here that I've arranged like this, don't they look beautiful arranged like that? This is the waste letters from this card, you see. So all of those beautiful inky letters I'm going to use on that card, and then I recessed white ones back into this one. So it's going to be a lot of die cutting, sticking bits and pieces in. So I am going to speed up quite a few bits of this, but I'll come back and show you different bits and pieces along the way as well. Also on this water marbled one, I think I might do a little bit of ink blending first, just to tone down the white so that the white thank you when I recess it back in doesn't get too lost. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. And then also with all of these techniques, when you're doing this inlaid die cutting into a background like this, you want to cut the ones that you want to put back in first. So I've already got one thank you cut out like this, but I need another one, and I've already got 2 sets of the letters cut out from this one, and I have just taped these together. But you could try using press and seal. I've still not experimented with that yet. I really need to do an experimental video with that too. Or you could use the scrapbook.com mint tape as well. I've just used some of the repositionable adhesive Scotch tape that I tend to use to stick my dies down with to keep them all in place, and this is already cut 6 or 7 maybe already, plus all of the white ones as well. So they do stay together nicely when you stick them together, and I've just arranged them in a sort of higgledy-piggledy manner that I quite like the layout for a card as well. So I'm going to go through and cut those from the patterns, cut another white one, and then cut these from the patterns as well, and then I'll sort of show you the sped up process of piecing them back together. It's really, really simple to do. again. I kind of got carried away yesterday with doing all of the embossing, which I should have put the sped up footage in just before this. I used a ton of different embossing folders. Mighty Waves and Monstera Leaves from Altenew. The Diamond Art, Art Deco Rhapsody and Art Deco Arches from Creative Expressions, and then a bunch of the gorgeous 3D ones from Tim Holtz and Sizzix as well. So I'll try to link all of them below in case you're interested in them. Sorry about Pumpkin barking, she's at the kitchen windowsill. I think she's barking at a plastic bag flying around outside as usual. I got carried away and sort of got everything together. I've got all 30 cards now. Some of them I'm not as keen on, other ones I really like the look of, but I'm kind of hoping if I put embellishments on them they'll all sort of come together and I'll like all of them. A couple of them I had scrap backgrounds left over. I needed to make up the last few cards, so to make them look a bit extra special I heat embossed the sentiments on them. So this one was with this gorgeous one from Tonic. This is called Copper Mine, and it's a sparkly one. And then because it's sparkly and it feels like textured, and some people don't like sparkle, and because I'm giving these to lots of different carers, maybe they don't like sparkle, I'm not sure. I put a couple of layers of clear embossing powder over the top as well, so they're much smoother, and the glitter is then sort of encapsulated into it as well. Some of the embossed pieces that you will have seen earlier, I added ink and then a little bit of gilded touch too, just to make them look a bit special. I'm still not that keen. I've done 2 cards like this, but I really love the wording because I cut it out of an acrylic pour that I did. I think it was when I was playing with balloons and things with them. I don't know if I filmed that or whether it was supposed to be part of my acrylic pouring series that I never ended up editing because I ended up not liking it. But I'm not sure where it's from, but I love the sentiment, and I'm just not... I don't know if I'm as keen on how they turned out, but I'm hoping if I put a scattering of green gems across it, maybe I'll like it better. And I tried to draw around the left side and bottom of the letters with a dark brown Nouveau alcohol marker to try and make them stand out a little bit more. There's another one like that as well, portrait version too. So we'll see what that looks like with gems on and stuff. And then I've just sort of done ones, with the gorgeous embossing folders in the background. I've added a little bit of ink to that one. I've added a little bit of one of those jelly printed pieces of graph paper. I've done a little bit of stamping using some tailor-made journals and St. Paul stamps on there as well. So tons and tons of different samples, and I don't like this one as much, so I'm hoping with a few gems it'll look better. Tons and tons of different samples here to sort of show you all of the different ones that I've done. So I'm hoping going through, picking out some gems for all of these and sticking them on will make me like all of them. And there's another one with some embossing powders on, and that one as well. And there's the other one like that. I think I prefer that one to the landscape one. But yeah, I'm hoping if I go through and put some different embellishments on these that I'll really like the way that they're all turning out. So I've got all of my lovely trays of embellishments here. I've got so many different ones to pick from. It's going to be a bit of how am I supposed to choose which ones to go on here. But I thought I will go through all of the cards, stick all of these embellishments on, and then I'll just come back at the end and show you all of the cards up close. I'll just sort of bring one up and show it like this, which gems I've put on and why I decided to pick them maybe as well. Yeah, so I'll see you again in a couple of seconds for you, and probably like a couple of hours for me trying to choose all of the different embellishments. Okay, I'm back. I've embellished all of the cards. I think I like them. I think I like all of them now. I think I do. There was a couple that I felt didn't... I think there was a couple, 1 or 2, that I felt didn't need any sequins or gems or anything on them. I'm going to try and tell you which embossing folder I've used, if I've used an embossing folder on some of them as well, because I feel like you kind of see an embossing folder and you think, oh, I really like that, and you want to know which one it is. So the first 2 are the large thank you... What's it called? I've forgotten the name again. Giant thank you from Lawn Fawn is cut from an acrylic pour kind of background, and these were 2 that I wasn't very keen on, but now I've added those Monstera leaves on there and some yellow pearls. I think they work quite nicely. I still feel like it needs to stand out a little bit more. Maybe I should have shadowed it with white so that it stood out more on this side before I'd stuck it on. I'm not sure, but I do like them more now than I did before. And the embossing folder on this one is the Tim Holtz one called Cracked, which I think was in the Halloween, the most recent Halloween collection, I think. So that's those two. And to do this, I simply just put 3 leaves on each and then just clustered some yellow pearls onto there. Then these two are both using the same background. So both of those thank yous I managed to die cut out of one A6 piece that I had done the acrylic pouring onto. And then these two are both cut from this background, which I'm pretty sure was playing around with some Nouveau goodies, probably a leftover one from a kit video or something, because I'm pretty certain that is their sparkle mists. What are they called? Sparkle sprays, I think. And maybe squishing it around with some mousse or something in there as well. I'm pretty sure that's where that's from. And it just so happened that this jelly printed piece matched really nicely with the colour, so that I took that jelly printed piece out and then diagonally just cut a strip so that it would go across the background like that. And you can see the thank and the you, which is the Festive alphabet die set. I've got the uppercase and the lowercase. From the lovely Lourdes. She also sent me quite a few of the embossing folders as well, the Tim Holtz ones. So that is the font that I've used on here. It's really gorgeous, isn't it? I love this gorgeous swirl that you get on some of the letters, and it kind of forces you to put them in a higgledy-piggledy kind of manner. Like, you can't put the T next to the H very easily because of this gorgeous scripty bit that's coming out of there. I mean, maybe you could put the T on top of the H, but if you're die cutting all of the letters together, you kind of have to make them higgledy-piggledy, but I really like it. I think it looks really lovely having them all up and down, and you can put them straighter together when you stick them down as well. Just with the amount of metal around the dies and stuff, you kind of have to go a bit more higgledy-piggledy for the cutting into a background. For this one, it's literally just that beautiful background with the letters cut in, recessed back in with white like I showed you earlier in the video, and then just a few gorgeous little blue pearls as well. Very similar colour to the background, so it's very subtle kind of decoration. And then this one, I've used a TaylorMade Journals stamp in the background, which I'll link below, and also a Sam Paul stamp, one of these gorgeous, like, old-fashioned sort of seals that's got a lovely fleur-de-lis, and I really like fleur-de-lis. So I just used that on there, stamped with Lost Shadow Distress Oxide, and then I've just used a mixture of these, like, moonstone ones, these beautiful sparkly gems, and then half pearls. That was from one of those Lucy's Little Things mixtures, but I think she's gone out of business now. So you probably got lots of those kind of things in your stash though that you could use together. And just as a reminder to anybody, mix up your gems. I always think it looks so lovely when you mix gems, pearls and like the little domes together. It just gives a different look. If you're getting fed up of just using this type or this type, try mixing them together and even throwing in a few sequins as well. I think it looks really, really lovely when you do that kind of thing. So that's the second thank you that goes with that one. And then this one is the water marbled one that I ink blended some of it with the tumbled glass distress ink because I felt like I needed to tone down some of the white so that the white thank you would stand out better. And I do like how this one has turned out. And I've just used my iridescent sequins that I always use on all sorts of different things. So I think it's a 8mm, 6mm, 5mm, something like that, for the 3 different sizes on there, and they just pick up the kind of colours that are on the background. And then for this one, again, it was Lucy's Little Things, a collection of little sequins in a couple of different colours. They were from a couple of different collections to get the right colours to go together. And then the embossing folder in the background of this one is called Art Deco Arches, and this one is from Creative Expressions. I bought this one off of their website. I love this pattern. It's very, I mean, obviously it's very Art Deco, but I think it also looks a bit Egyptian as well. So I'm probably going to be using it in some kind of Egyptian art journaling too, which I still haven't gotten around to doing. So that's that one. Then this one, I think this was just cleaning off my brayer when I was doing some messy, painty kind of backgrounds. I think I've used some pearlescent, maybe it might have been with gilding polishes actually and acrylic paints, but a really lovely messy kind of background for a card. And then the second one, look how pretty it looks. So you've got like a really grungy one and then a really pretty sort of one. These flowers I can't remember where I got them from, but they just worked so perfectly. Instead of having the circles, I know they're not different sizes, they are all the same size, but instead of having the little circle sequins, I've got little flower sequins. And the embossing folder for this one is another one of those Art Deco ones from Creative Expressions, and this one is called Art Deco Rhapsody. So I really like that one as well. That's one of the ones I got sent on the design team to do my samples with. And I really like the angularness of it as well. It probably could go for being a little bit Egyptian looking too, with some of the sort of patterns. So I might be using that with that as well. But that's just kind of like the contrast of, even though I've cut it from something grungy, you can make it look very pretty. I could have even ink blended to minimise, you know, the starkness between the little bits of white card that are left there as well, but I do love that kind of texture. But if you have backgrounds like this and you don't like the sort of texture that you can see like that, just ink blend over it with a matching colour that's, you know, a lighter kind of tone, and you'll sort of tone it down a little bit, and you still got that texture, but it's not quite so, you know, texture against white, if you know what I mean. So that's those two. Then these two, this one went through quite a bit, this card, but this one I love. I didn't even put any sequins on this because I thought it just worked really nicely. I think this stamp was a pink ink one. I think it was a pink ink one, because I have a feeling these are the Cosmic Shimmer watercolours that I've used in the background to colour it in. And I think I was doing some samples maybe with wordies or something, and I had these backgrounds that I'd been playing with, but I really like that Monstera leaf. As you know, I do love Monstera leaves, but I really like how that one turned out. And then the thank you that came out of that one, I mean, you can kind of tell it's a Monstera leaf pattern on there, but it wasn't quite so obvious. So in the background, I have actually mounted it onto just a wonky rectangle that I cut with my scissors, the Monstera leaves one from Alter New. So that's the embossing folder in the background of that one. And then this piece in the background, this is actually a waste piece from a magazine masterclass that I did ages ago. It was using some of the Eyes Ink or Is Ink texture paste in those little pouches, and this one had glass. Oh, is this the sand one? No, this might be the sand one. It was either sand or glass beads, and I'd done a bunch of backgrounds that I sort of chopped up to use for the cards in the magazine, and I had little bits and pieces left over, and I was using them with the Eyes Ink dye sprays as well. So I had obviously yellows and pinky, reddy, orangey kind of colours, and that box I was showing you earlier with all those backgrounds that I cut up, when I was looking for something to finish this card off, because I had originally just stuck that onto a full panel of the Monstera leaf embossed in the background, and I didn't like it. I needed something else to it. So then I cut it into a wonky rectangle, mounted it onto a little piece of red card, and then I wanted something else for the background, and it just so happened that they were like the perfect kind of colours, even though those are completely different products and completely different backgrounds that I made probably years apart from each other. It worked really nicely to team it up together, and I've just used my usual ever favourite little circle confettis or sequins on there. Then we've got these two, and I think this background, I'm not sure what this was actually. This kind of looks like it's got some of the Midas touch from Tonic in it perhaps, so I'm not actually sure where this background was, but it kind of looks like I was doing some kind of wrinkle-free distress technique, or perhaps it was leftovers, leftover ink from when I've, you know, been doing a video and didn't want to waste the ink, so I stopped the camera and make a background out of it and then carry on. Or it could have been from doing, you know, various samples for all sorts of different things. But this is the actual background with the dies cut into it and recessed back in, and I just used a mixture of yellow, orange and cream sequins, and I put gold gems in the centre of them because the sequins were all the same size and I wanted some variation, so I put different sized gold gems in the centre. And then for this one, I used a mixture of gems and pearls to go with it. The embossing folder in the background of this one is this stunning one called Mighty Waves from Alter New. I don't have many Alter New embossing folders, but I'm very glad of the ones that I did pick because I feel like they work so nicely. You know, I've only got like, maybe I've only got 3 maybe. I think I do have one more, but yeah, they're like generic kind of patterns that don't have to be the sea. They can just be a gorgeous like swirly pattern in the background, or, you know, I just love my Monstera leaves anyway. And then the background strip that I've used along here, this was actually a shaving foam marble background that I did literally 7 or 8 years ago when I was first messing around with marbling and stuff with shaving foam, and it just worked with the colours, so I just cut a couple of strips off it and used it on there, and I think it works really nicely. It just needed something as a border at the bottom of that card, and it worked so nicely. Again, that was one of those ones that I had in that box of all of my backgrounds cut down to my favourite size of card. Then this one here, or these two even, that come from the same background, I think this was Cosmic Shimmer watercolor inks, and possibly some of their airless misters with the pearlescence in. That could even be what I used on this one as well, to be honest. But really pretty, gorgeous background where I've done that wrinkle-free technique and splattered on some pearlescent colours. And again, I've used some gorgeous gems that match in with those colour tones, and that just worked perfectly to finish off that really simple, quick card. And then this one, it took a little bit more to kind of put it all together. I think it did look nice just on a white panel, but then I felt like it was too boring compared to others, so I brought in an embossing folder again, and that ledger kind of stamp and the sort of seal stamp as well, so they will be linked in the description. I found these gorgeous like clay pieces that I bought ages ago, and it had like moons and little white stars, but I thought I'd just put one moon, and then I bought these itty bitty little tiny gold star confettis, and I've just used those to scatter just to catch the eye. And then obviously this has got a bit of sparkle in here, but this is a leftover background that is the same inks as this, but I didn't put the sparkly thing on it. And I found this again in the backgrounds that I'd cut up to use, so I just cut a couple of strips of those on there to hide the join of where I'd used this embossing folder, which is the reptile one from Tim Holtz. So this beautiful reptile pattern, I love this one as well, so beautiful. And I've just inked that with a little bit of Lost Shadow Distress Oxide. I've used mostly that. If you see a sort of little bit of hint of inking like that, it's the Lost Shadow Distress Oxide. Then these two both come from the same background. However, this one had no yellow on it because the yellow was at the top of this card, and some of this was yellow, but it's all mixed in with the reds and the oranges to make just orangey tones. And this was a background that I did in my salad spinner. So I did an up close video. I can't remember how many backgrounds I actually showed making in the up close video, but I probably showed a lot of them. It was quite a long time ago that I filmed that, probably like 3 years ago or something. But these were the Arteza Tempera paints, and they had gorgeous neon colours, and there's a pink and like a couple of orangey reds and a yellow, and so I put them in the salad spinner, spun it round and got this fantastic effect. And so then I've die cut out of that to use on this card, and then to finish off this one I just put the Creative Expressions water crystals onto there because I felt like it needed something, but it didn't need anything too distracting, and I feel like these water crystals are absolutely perfect because they kind of magnify whatever colours below them. And actually, if you haven't ever tried it before, try putting down some Cosmic Shimmer Opal Blaze and then putting these over the top. They look fantastic because they give beautiful, you know, multicoloured mica sparkly effects then. They look fantastic. I did it recently on a different card for a sample. And then this is the other card. You can hear Pumpkin, she's just trotted in. This is the other card that's using the back or the die cut from this. I struggled with this one, but this background is using those Eyes Ink texture paste. It was a leftover one from that magazine commission again that I'd never put any colour on, and so it was just a white background, and I thought that white texture would go nicely. Then I needed some bright yellow because I wanted to bring that yellow tone in, so this is one of the Dina Wakley neon paints, just because I was too lazy to dig down there to get my Tempera paints out. But this one is called Gnarly, and it actually matches pretty well with those Tempera paints. So if you like the look of them, but you might not be able to find them anymore, or if you like the look of the Dina Wakeleys, you know, you've got differences in neon products there as well. And then I just used the same Mighty Waves embossing folder from Altenew in the background, and then put on those sequins. Then these 3 cards are all from these or this same background. So this was a background that I'd created with my Dilutions ink sprays. It was an A5 piece, and it had the gorgeous, is it Polished Jade, After Midnight, Funky Fuchsia, and crushed grape, I think are those kind of colours that I'd used on this one. I used to use those inks so much, and I really need to bring them out again because I always loved creating backgrounds with them. I've then done a little bit of stenciling in the background of this, and I've stamped with Andy Skinner's Shattered stamp in there as well, and there's like dotty stenciling, some splatting and ghosting as well. And then this, I also used this background in that Tempera paints video, and I used some of the sparkly paints, the pink one and the turquoise one, to tap all over it. So I had an A5 piece of this, I cut it down to 2 A6s, used one on this, and then cut the thank you out, and I've created this card with the thank you from that. And this background is another Creative Expressions Art Deco one, which is called Diamond Art. So really pretty, I love this one, and you can use this both ways up as well, but it just looks so like mesmerising looking at this one, the sort of depth that it gives. So that's kind of using those two, but on this card I wanted something else, so I fished that second background out of my box and nicked the corners of it to use on this card to kind of finish it off, because I felt like it just needed something else to kind of finish the design off. So then I had some card left over, obviously, so I nicked the other two corners and put them on the corners, and then cut the thank you with the Festive dies out of the centre and put that in the centre. And I do, if I want to use it, also have this piece here, which I should probably just show on the back of the card. It's got the negative of it, and I have kept the little pieces so that I could put them back in if I really wanted to, but I quite like it actually just with the holes. You could even put gems or sequins where the little pieces are supposed to be, but I could definitely use that as well and make a fourth card too if I wanted to. And then for all three of these, because they're all kind of the same, I went with a large silver star sequin, a small silver star sequin, and then these gorgeous ones, I don't know where I got them from, but they're like a circle with a star punched out of them. I don't have that many of them anymore, so I use them quite sparingly on cards, but I really like those ones as well. So that's how I finished those three off. Then this one I was showing at the beginning of the video, cutting out the design from this stones pattern from my water marbling videos. This was in part 1, I think, and I've used some green gems to finish this one off. Just, they're kind of a darker green, but they went quite nicely with this middle kind of colour that was on there. And you can see actually this panel is shorter than my normal card, because when I was making this card I wanted something to go top and bottom, so I just pinched a bit off of this card before I'd finished it. And then I've put the thank you there, put those strips on there. The background is the Monstera leaf again, so the Monstera leaves from Alter New, and I've inked it with a little bit of the Lost Shadow Distress Oxide and stamped with a little bit of that Ledger stamp in the background as well. I know it has kind of cracked here on this one. I don't know why. I embossed this twice because I wanted it for another card as well. I don't know why this one gave the cracks, because I sprayed the card with water, so I'm going to have to experiment with that again and see maybe if it's just that kind of folder, maybe it's just the pattern that does it. It was mostly this area and a tiny bit over here, but I don't think it really matters. It doesn't really detract too much from the card. And then the embellishments on this one were from my lovely friend Vicky, and I know you'll be watching, Vicky, so thank you very much for those little paw print embellishments. But some of the carers really enjoyed seeing Pickle and Willow most of the days when they were looking after my nan, so I thought paw prints would go quite nicely, and the green was just perfect for this card, so I just had to put them on this one. So those are the two using that design from the water marbling. Then I've got three again that kind of match each other. So the original one was this one, and I positioned the dies more towards the top because this is an acrylic pour, or this was an acrylic squish background. Again, I can't remember if I filmed this. I remember I lost these paint colours for ages because I'd left them off to one side with the backgrounds that I'd been doing, because obviously I meant to film another video with them or finish a video. I probably have the beginning footage of this somewhere, and I found them when I was moving, so I was quite glad to have those colours back in my stash. But yeah, I did this beautiful acrylic squished background where I'd sprinkled in some like polished silk glitters into it, and I've used metallic colours and sort of browns and golden yellows and stuff in there to create that. So this was the original card, and then I used the cutout pieces for this card, and then these two strips in the background, I felt like this card needed something else, so those two strips are nicked from another of these backgrounds, which I've then used on this card, you see. So this part here is again the Tim Holtz Cracked embossing folder, and this was actually a little bit of brushed corduroy, and what was the other colour I was using? A tiny bit of gathered twigs. So brushed corduroy and a little bit of gathered twigs on that, just to give it more of a browny sort of tone to it. I finished both of these off with those gold Monstera leaf. They're actually table confetti, those. I think I found them on Amazon. I just searched in Monstera leaf confetti and they came up with those in a green version as well, which I used on those other cards earlier. So that's those two. And then obviously, because I had a leftover bit of this background, I wanted to make another card. And so I die cut the giant thank you from Lawn Fawn and I heat embossed it. I showed you this earlier, where I used the copper mine and then I put a couple layers of clear embossing powder over the top to make it look more like an embellishment. I probably should have used triple thick on one of the layers to give it a more glossy kind of finish. And then I've used some like bronzy kind of gems. I really wish these went up to bigger sizes, but they're quite small, those little gems, but I think it finishes it off nicely. So I've got that one. Then these two are from the same two backgrounds. I think I made these backgrounds when I was doing a gouache video. I think it was for the Arteza gouache paints. I think that's when I made these ones. And I was just having fun painting stripy backgrounds, and I really loved this colour palette as well. So I used one of them. Actually, no, I think I used one of them and I cut the giant thank you from the bottom of the panel and used the top of the panel to cut the fancy festive thanks from there rather than thank you. This one says thanks. And then when I was putting the cards together, I felt like I needed more of that coloured pattern. So this is all from the second background, because I think I got another couple of them in there as well. That I had created at the same time. I actually managed to find sequins that were practically a perfect match for the blue and the corally colours that I'd picked for doing that gouache background probably like 5 or 6 years ago maybe. And then for this one, I decided to use an embossing folder in the background, which is the Tim Holtz Circuit embossing folder, which I bought relatively recently because I'm meaning to use it on a card for my dad, but I don't think I've actually made him a card with it yet. But I love that background too. It's one of the multi-level ones rather than the 3D ones, and you've got all the circuitry in the background, but it looks lovely just in white as well. So that's those two. And then the final 4 cards probably are the ones... No, I do really like this one still. So this is the marbled background, and I had cut off 2 strips of it because I do have the letters that came out of it, but I couldn't make a card work with them that I was happy with, so I'm going to keep them and I'll probably use them at a later date. But this was one of the marbled backgrounds again that I had done in one of those videos. I cannot remember which one this one was from. And again, I've cut the thank you out of it. Did I show you this one at the beginning of the video? I can't remember. But I cut the thank you out of it and then recessed the white ones back in. And then I've used some pink gems on this one to accent it. And then I think I do quite like this one actually. It's maybe just... probably just one card actually that I'm not that keen on now. I'll show you that one last. So I also quite like this one. This again is from the water marbled backgrounds. I was trying to do the stone pattern, but it came out really wibbly and wiggly, but I quite like it actually. I feel like it looks a bit like one of those gobstoppers that were like white chalky colour with the flecks of different colours in them. And then for the sentiment on this one, I did the embossing powder technique again, but the first layer is with this embossing powder, which is called White Glitz. It's a wow one, and it's got like shards in there as well, but you could probably actually create your own if you have some of the tonic confetti, because some of there's a couple of different confettis that are like little strands like this. You could probably mix it in with an embossing powder to get a similar kind of effect. And then I've used a couple layers of clear over the top as well, so really simple. And I didn't put gems on this one as well. This was like the one of 2 that I said I didn't put any gems onto. Then this one, I do quite like how this one turned out actually. The background is another one of the Tim Holtz embossing folders that I bought recently. I only just took it out of the packet actually. This was the first time using it. What is this one called? Quilted. It's called Quilted, this one. But I just, I loved the fact that it gives a really subtle fabric texture as well. You could really make like a denim sort of look out of this. But I've used it in the background just onto white with some of the Lost Shadow ink. I've stamped that sort of seal that you can see in there. And I think I did a bit of the ledger, but it's probably got a little bit lost with the ink blending that I added on top. And then I've also done the embossing powder on the sentiment again, and this was using Purple Haze, which this embossing powder actually reminded me of my nan while I was making these, because when I first got this embossing powder, the first card I made with it I gave to her, so it kind of reminded me of her, which was nice. And then I also mixed in some Brilliant Sparkle Crushed Grape as well, which has kind of got a black powder in there with purple glitter. It's like a black powder with purple glitter, so it gave a really dark, moody kind of effect. I just sprinkled it in different areas. So when I put the sequins on here, I've put 3 large purple stars and then 4 small black stars as well, just to sort of tie that together. And then my final card here, which is one of those beautiful flower backgrounds from the water marbling. I don't know why, maybe I do like it. It's just not my favourite. I mean, out of making 30 cards, there's obviously going to be 1 or 2 that you don't particularly like, but it's probably my least favourite of all 30 of them. But then there's probably some of you watching who think that this one is your favourite, so because we all have different tastes and everything. But the background pattern for this one is Tapestry, which is one of the multi-level embossing folders, and this one is also from the Halloween collection, which the lovely Lourdes sent to me. So that's the background that I've used, and then I did have the main panel as a full piece, but there were some imperfections in the design, so I felt like if I trim it down, maybe I'd prefer it better. I was going to use it portrait on the card, but at some point I then decided to put it landscape. I recessed a white one back in, but then I felt like it was getting too lost because I had too much white left in the background, so I cut a blue cardstock one and then like shadowed it on top, and then I've used some of those flower sequins to finish it off. So I guess I do like this one more now. But it's probably my least favourite out of all 30 of them. So, but yeah, do let me know which one is your favourite below, if you've got a favourite from all of the different ones that I've created, because I'd be quite interested to know, you know, if your favourite is my favourite and stuff. Pumpkin has just come in demanding a game of fetch, I'm guessing. Yes, is that why you're here? Do you want to play fetch in the garden? Do you? Yes, so I better end the video here, but I hope you've enjoyed this video. I have a feeling, I didn't think it was going to be very long, but I think I've just been rabbiting on for about half an hour just showing you the cards. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'm very glad to have gotten all 30 of these cards made so that I can give them to all of the carers and nurses at Mountbatten who looked after my nan before she passed away. So really hope you've enjoyed seeing sort of like batch making and how I've decided to finish off different cards as well. If you've got a load of backgrounds that you want to create a bunch of cards with, but you're never sure quite how to sort of finish them off, maybe this will have given you a little bit of inspiration. So Pumpkin is now jumping next to me wanting to play. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!